I I did make it in time for well, I made it in time for 3 fights, but let's not count that third one. I made it in time though. What is going on, guys? We're talking about UFC 192 recap slash review of my thoughts on pretty much all the 3 fights I was able to watch because I was out of town, came home, watched the fight, went out. I mean, it was a busy day yesterday, but let's talk first. Ryan Bader versus Rashad Evans. Now, Rashad Evans, I believe. The third fight was whatever, but Rashad Evans basically he's been out of the game for I think 2 years. They said him, doing his shows, this and that, where he talks sports and everything. So it's kind of funny. I was like, 2 years, man. I mean, has it been that long? I think the last time I saw him fight was against John Jones. I think that was the last fight he had. So I was a little kind of baffled that it was 2 years, maybe a year, but not 2 years. But that's what Joe and all them said. So basically, let's talk about this Ryan Bader and Rashad Evans fight. Let's talk about the whole card real quick of UFC 192. It wasn't as fights I definitely saw. I don't think I saw the first 2 fights, but what I saw it was just so. I'm sorry. I'm gonna call it as it is. I mean, UFC is if they're competing with boxing and stuff. I mean, tonight's fight card was kind of boring. It was boring. It was lacking. The crowd was booing most of the time. I was watching this. It just wasn't. There's no fights that were super entertaining, but there was a saving grace, and I'm going to talk about that later on. But the Rashad Evans and Ryan Bader fight, once it was boring as well. It wasn't. I mean, Rashad Evans, he looked still fit. However, Ryan Bader did pop him with a lot of shots. He got a lot of good. I mean that. Rashad Evans. Rashad Evans, he's not the most entertaining fighter to watch. He's very technical. He has great wrestling. However, what was surprising was Rashad. Well, it wasn't too surprising if he was out in the game that long, but Rashad Evans is still an elite because even though he was taken down by Ryan Bader a couple of times, he got back on his feet and he got back on his feet quickly. So that's how you know a guy is definitely very. He's just because he's not entertained doesn't mean he's not really good. And this guy definitely knows how to, you know, wrestle and to get to his feet very, very fast, which is kind of funny because in Ultimate Fighter, McGregor would probably like, yes, Rashad, yes, nice, to the body, Rashad, patience, having McGregor to Rashad Evans. But I thought Ryan Bader looked good. Ryan Bader did his job. He went in there. It wasn't, Rashad Evans didn't give him an ass kicking. But Ryan Bader did good. He won the fight by unanimous decision. Rashad Evans, you could see that his eye was swollen up, so it probably was hard to see basically some of the shots that Ryan Bader was giving him. But it was just a lackluster fight. I was a little disappointed in it. I mean, I like Rashad Evans as an athlete. He's a very talented fighter, but he's just not the most entertaining fighter. And Ryan Bader, I don't really have too much of an opinion on him. I mean, it's either he gives me a good show or not. So the Rashad Evans and Ryan Bader fight was not that the whole card wasn't that interesting to me. It really felt. I was thinking the whole time, it's like boxing, man. I mean, UFC has sometimes their cards are like boxing where nothing really happens. It's very technical. It's really just to the point and really trying to win on a scorecards. Or it's just, the fighters just don't have that spark that sometimes fights could have. However, our main event was Daniel Cormier versus Alexander Gustafsson. I'm just gonna call him Alexander. I'm gonna call Daniel because that's my name's Daniel. So we had Daniel versus Alexander. Daniel's of course, for the belt. This made up for the whole night. This fight was very, very entertaining, and these were two warriors going at it. Alexander was hungry. He's already lost to John Jones, but Daniel has lost to John Jones too. But he has the belt, of course. And the first round, Daniel did one of his famous freaking slams where he flipped Alex. He just picked him up. He kind of had him like in a crotch area and stuff. And he just like one-handed him and like picked him up. And Alexander, as tall as he is, he flipped. I was just like, what? Damn. That was crazy, son. So, yeah, Daniel and Alexander was such an entertaining fight. These two were going at it. They were going blow to blow. Like, they were really striking. Of course, Alexander was getting more messed up because of Daniel's power. But Alexander was landing some quite... At one point, I believe it was the third round, he almost knocked out Daniel. He almost got him. He got him, I think it was a knee or something like that. I'm sorry, because my connection was like a little weird. So sometimes it would like freeze frame it. But Alexander caught Daniel, and Daniel was going down. He was going down. I mean, he barely was conscious enough to like kind of come back and just clinch on Alexander. Alexander couldn't finish the fight. What was weird with Alexander too is he would go in, he would throw some strikes, and then Daniel would come back with some powerful strikes, and it looked like Daniel was having momentum. And I'll get to why I think Daniel's fight style is really, really good. But Alexander would strike, and then Daniel would try to counter it, and Alexander would kind of run around the ring. He would try to get away. He knew his surroundings, which is great. So I can't fault Alexander on that, because he was running to just get away from Daniel. And that's a smart move, even though it didn't pay off tonight, because, spoiler alert, if you haven't already heard, I mean, it's the next day, but Alexander did lose by split decision. But I gotta say, Daniel's fighting style, we all know he's like a wrestler. We all know he could take guys down, and that's his game plan. And he did. He did do a ground and pound, an excellent ground and pound, because these shots that he was hitting Alexander were powerful. Alexander did the best he could to like defend them, of course, using his height. But height didn't matter, and this is what I love about this fight. And this really showcased that height does not matter. Weight kind of matters, but height does not matter. Because Mike Tyson used to do it back in the day. He used to go in and he knew he was going to get hit, but he went in for the kill. He went in, got close, and just delivered fast, hard strikes. This is what Daniel does. He was going in Alexander's space, basically, and he was giving him some hard shots. Daniel had power. So he will go in, boom, boom, boom. Like, he knew he was going to get hit. And he did get hit quite a bit. I mean, Alexander was throwing these nice, like they believe, left hooks. Really great, beautiful. I really like Alexander's nice hooks. But you could tell towards the end of the later rounds that there was just no power in them. But Daniel, this guy, and he was in great condition, because even though at those later rounds, those punches that he was delivering still hurt. So Daniel's power and his ability to get inside, even if you're a lengthier opponent, that's what had him win the fight. And not only that, the last round he clinched up, held Alexander, and this is what I absolutely loved. He held him, boom, 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 boom. That is what you want. If you're in a clinch game, you want uppercuts. Sometimes you want the elbow. There was one point, I think it was Ryan Bader caught Rashad Evans with an elbow. He had him clinched up and went boom. But definitely with Daniel, and the strength he had, because you could see Alexander just, he wasn't punching back. He wasn't punching back in that last round. And if Alexander would have punched back and maybe like hurt Daniel at one point or something like that, if he would have punched back, if he would have countered, I think he could have won that last round, and that would have been the deciding factor in the overall fight. But Daniel was so strong and held with his left hand, and still having the power in that last and final round, the fifth round, being able to throw those uppercuts. Man, that is a champ right there. That is a guy who knows that. Listen, he knows his strengths and he used them. Great fight. I love the respect after the fight where these two, and everybody loved the fight. I loved the fight. I think Joe Rogan loved it. Way like this dude was like, it was an awesome fight. It was an awesome fight. That's what made up for the whole card. But man, back of your mind though, you think, I mean, with all the legal troubles, with everything like that, John Bone Jones, like this guy beat already beat Daniel, already beat Alexander. He had a tough fight on both of them. Well, Daniel he kind of beat in the later rounds, but with Alexander he had an extremely tough fight. Alexander took him to all 5 rounds. I have to say, man, I want to see John. I want Jones to come back. I would love to see Jones fight Daniel and Daniel right now for the belt again, because they stripped the belt away from him because of the legal trouble. I forgot what he did, but I mean, it's been kind of do drugs, and I think it was a hit and run, wasn't it? But in back of your mind, you always think John Jones like. I mean, could Daniel beat John Jones at this point? And I don't think so. I don't think he can. I don't know if he ever can, honestly, because there's always that one opponent that you just cannot beat. But Daniel's looking good. Daniel's looking very good. You could tell he's a little bit more conditioned. You could tell because he still had power when against Alexander, and they were working like the whole night. They were working. You had the clinch game, you had the strikes, you had the wrestling game, you had the ground and pound. I mean, they were working all night, and this was a great, entertaining fight. This was always a fight that they were always busy. They were always busy, and of course, you had some highlights with a lot of big shots, and of course, Alexander almost getting Daniel, but he just didn't. He didn't really pounce on him. So, but I did like Alexander's strategy of kind of just getting his space, but it still didn't work. So maybe he has to come up with another strategy. But I mean, it's great to know that he's aware of his surroundings. So great fight. Daniel definitely deserves a win. I had Daniel winning that fight. I had Alexander. I hope Alexander does become champion one of these days because he deserves it, man. He's been in just wars, and I would love to see a second one. I would love to see Daniel and Alexander number 2. It was a good fight. I just think the undercard's going to be better. But overall, that's my thoughts on UFC 192. You can check out my Ultimate Fighter reviews. I have them on my channel. I review every Wednesday. I do podcast form so you can see some pictures and stuff of the fight and everything and my thoughts. It's McGregor and Faber. A lot of people do not like McGregor, and it's rightfully so. He's kind of a douchebag, but I'm excited for I want to see his fight, man. I think he's fighting Aldo. I'm ready for that. But that's about it, guys. Like the video if you like it. Comment below what you guys thought on the fights. Like I said, I came into I missed, I think, the first 2 fights. Overall, though, it still was kind of boring, and the crowd was definitely booing. They did the wave at one point. They did the wave. Thank you guys for listening. I'm Dan Maniac and Dan's son. You guys stay classy. Ron Burgundy.